Chapter 103, I'm convinced. Su Cheng just let them laugh. Then, he picked up his plates, walked over to Team 2's table, and sat down by the table his team was at. Li Chao looked toward him and said, "Boss, I really want to slap their faces." Su Cheng faintly smiled. "Don't worry, you will have the opportunity later on." Wu Gang also looked toward Su Cheng. "But your plan does hurt my balls a little." Su Cheng confidently replied, "It's easy to dodge a gunshot from the open but not an arrow from the dark. My plan isn't conventional, and you will see." Wu Gang was trying so hard to suppress his urge that even his stomach was hurting, and he finally couldn't take it anymore and asked, "Boss, you are instructing us openly to follow them, and also telling Li Chao and the others to check their accounting books. Everyone now knows what we are trying to do. I feel kind of stupid that we are directly approaching the case like this. Just eat." Su Cheng looked at his team. "I promise you, give me a few days, and if this case really embarrasses you, then I will quit this job myself. Don't worry, I won't joke around with my career." "Okay, then we will also fully cooperate with you." Since Su Cheng had already put his job on the line, Li Chao, Wu Gang and the others also declared their commitment. And on the other hand, at the Deputy Department Director's office, Ran Jing slammed her hands on the desk and asked very angrily, "Sir, how can an action plan like this get passed? What were you thinking?" In fact, she also wanted to ask this douchebag if he was working with the others to troll Su Cheng. This whole thing felt like Li Dazhuang was behind it. This guy came out from the same military camp as the Deputy Department Director, and he was also good friends with the captain of Team 7. It felt like Li Dazhuang was just trying everything to embarrass Su Cheng. Since the case was handed to him, then you think I have to deprive him of the ability to make his own calls? It's useless for you to complain to me, even the higher-ups didn't reject this plan, the Deputy Department Director said. What? Ran Jing thought she was hearing it wrong. She just wanted to ask if the higher-ups were pig-brained. How could this retarded of a plan get passed? This was simply being irresponsible for the case. 2 hours ago, the HQ director had nothing to do, so he decided to visit and check up on how Su Cheng was doing. So, he came to the Criminal Investigation Department Director's office to sit down and drink some tea. The director was going over the files, and when he saw Team 2's report, he directly slammed it onto the desk. What the fuck? How can this kind of action plan be handed in? Whose is it? The HQ director casted over a curious look. What's wrong? Why are you so angry? The department director bitterly smiled and directly gave Team 2's report to the HQ director. You should take a look yourself. Speaking of Su Cheng, he was transferred over on the HQ director's order, so the HQ director should also see how he was doing. The HQ director sipped on some tea and just casually glanced at it. Then, he spat out most of the tea in his mouth. The thing was, the action was just. There was no analysis, but they especially wrote that they would be investigating it with their identity revealed. If a money laundering case could be this easily solved, then why wouldn't it have been solved by now? The criminals would actually prefer the police to openly investigate the books, because the easiest part would be doing work on the surface of the books to make everything seem legit. This kind of plan really dragged down the IQ of the people reading it. Sir, what's your thoughts on this? The department director nonchalantly asked. His implied meaning was clear. You transferred the guy over, you should know what the fuck he's trying to do, right? The HQ director awkwardly coughed. Although he really wanted to say that Su Cheng's action report was just stupid beyond belief, he was the one that recruited him, so he still needed to say a few words since Su Cheng was technically his guy now. From the North Gate case, I can see that Su Cheng definitely has a lot of tricks up his sleeves. From how he was able to acquire and utilize solid evidence to detain those arrogant young heirs to how he brutally beat up the members of Westgate and Northgate, it's enough to prove Su Cheng's intelligence and his style of doing things. I don't think this report is as simple as it looks. Of course, the director had no choice but to try to say good things for Su Cheng. Since he got to bath in glory in front of the city officials after the police successfully uprooted Northgate from the city, he was boasting about how capable this Su Cheng guy was to every person he came across. So now, no matter how stupid this action plan was, he could only try to put a shroud over it and say that it was not simple. The HQ director then sank for a while. Finally, he narrowed his eyes and said, "Sign it. It's passed. I think Su Cheng's a guy with a good plan, let's just wait and see." The department director nodded, and then, feeling the immense shame in his heart, he signed the report and stamped it. And then, the action plan got passed, and the two directors became the pig brains in Ran Jing's mouth. Back in Team 2's small office, Su Cheng began talking about his plan. Starting from tomorrow, we will officially be working on this case. You guys have to be fully committed to working together with me, and in the process, I don't want anyone questioning my choices. Especially Wu Gang, your team, I want you guys to be able to report the status of your targets to me at all times. During the process, I will be using our internal Bluetooth communication devices to give orders. Li Chao, in 2 days, I need your team to sort out all of the accounting reports of the 5 casinos operating under Westgate that they submitted to the Tax Bureau, including the asset and cash flow reports. I need everything. Don't give me estimates. Then, Su Cheng looked at Wu Gang and then at Li Chao. Questions? If you have one, then speak up now. Wu Gang raised his hand. Boss, I still want to ask. Before he could finish, Su Cheng interrupted him. Didn't you hear what I said in the beginning? I don't want anyone questioning my choices. Go do 50 push-ups and come back. Wu Gang took a deep breath, nodded, and went out. Li Chao said, I have no questions. I will hand over everything in 2 days. Su Cheng, very well, then we will start our operation tomorrow and officially start on the case. Li Chao nodded. Then I will go to the Tax Bureau first to give them a heads up, or it might get a bit hectic tomorrow. Su Cheng nodded. Li Chao led his group of 5 and left. Wu Gang finished his 50 push-ups and came in, and Su Cheng looked at him and said, remember to not act recklessly when tracking your guy. If you receive a warning from them, then immediately stop and swap targets with someone else. Wu Gang nodded. Su Cheng looked at him, smiled, and asked, you know why I picked you to track them rather than Li Chao? Wu Gang was indeed curious. Why? Su Cheng laughed and replied, because you are always curious about everything, just like how you wanted to ask question right after I gave out my orders. People like you are very suited for carrying out these tracking missions, because your personality will drive you to get to the bottom of whatever's happening with the guy you are following. Wu Gang's eyes suddenly narrowed, and after looking at Su Cheng for a while, he finally said, Boss, I'm convinced now. But very soon, he laughed and asked, but since you know how strong my curiosity is, can you tell me what you are really planning? You are killing me, man. Su Cheng laughed and looked at everyone else that was still in the room. You guys want to know? The 5 others at the scene all nodded right away. Su Cheng smiled, I already told Li Chao and the others that are eavesdropping outside. You guys can go ask them. Outside the door, Li Chao and the others' eyes all opened up wide. How the fact did you know we were eavesdropping? Wu Gang pulled the door open, and Li Chao and his team all fell into the room. It turned out they were stacked on top of each other outside the door trying to listen in.